So I had a big tech win this week. I was always frustrated with my inbox, and finally I decided over the weekend to just spend 4 hours just getting rid of every subscription I have. Most of them are unwarranted actually. It's just places I've shopped at that keep telling me to come back, come back. Maybe they should have made better products.
Yeah.
But that aside, I finally was able to get rid of everything, and finally I can see that my inbox storage is finally under control, and it's not growing at a pace that I have to give Google more money. And I guess that is a loss for Google, but it's a big win for me. How's your inbox?
Cluttered, messy, unread, and full of stuff I don't want in there.
Great.
But that's a great win for you.
Yeah, you need that win too.
Yeah. Alright, let's get started. Okay, this is version control. And today we're doing groundbreaking techs in India over the past 20 years. But before that, I'm Soumya. I'm a software engineer. I have a few years of experience in cloud networking.
I'm Sarthak. I'm also a software engineer. I primarily deal in orchestration, not in networking, which is a better field. You know it.
Okay, so yeah, like I said, right, today we are discussing top 3 of our revolutions over the past 20 years.
Not ours.
I mean,
What we consider.
Yeah, what we consider.
Yeah.
Right, because India has seen a great boom in IT over the past 20 years especially. But before we dive into our list, I wanted to set the context for this episode, right? And the format is basically going to be, over the past week, we have both made lists of techs that we think have revolutionized or have been groundbreaking over the past 20 years or so, right? Both of us have 3 items. We're going to go one by one, and we're just going to talk about those techs. But before we dive into that, what has been your definition of what is groundbreaking or revolutionary tech to even come up with those items?
So for me, groundbreaking is measured in terms of impact, right? So that impact can be in multiple areas. It can be impact on the number of people, or it can be impact to just enable a new form of innovation to be possible.
Mm-hmm.
So primarily on these, I judge on impact there, and most of my lists you'll find most things are about that impact only. Like they have enabled India to go in a direction where it was not able to go before. What about you?
I think it's on similar lines. I do judge impact by has it impacted lives of, quality of lives of like multiple people. Have they solved a problem that maybe existed, was solved before differently than it was done before? And just the scale of that particular innovation, right? It doesn't have to be very research or math oriented tech to be groundbreaking. It just has to be disruptive in a way.
So when you say scale, what are you measuring scale on?
Yeah, again, the number of lives it has touched, or at what level they have solved the problem. Is it on a country level? Is it on a global level? So things like that.
Got it. Yeah. Sounds good.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get started. Who's going first?
Usual thing. Rock, paper, scissors.
Always.
Yeah.
Best of one only.
Best of one, yeah.
Yeah. Rock, paper, scissors. Rock, paper, scissors. Rock, paper, scissors.
Oh, you won.
I always win.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I should really change this game. I suck at this game, even though it's pure luck.
It is not luck.
Yeah,
it's
so you
probability.
gotta choose. Do you want to go first, or should I go first?
I can go first.
Oh, wow, awesome. I would not have been this brave, but go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, so the first on my list is UPI.
Really? Okay, it was on my list also. So first on my list is also UPI. I think it's kind of given, it's
Like,
been
why
recent.
wouldn't it be?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
alright, I'm gonna give you the stage. You said it first, so
Okay.
you can tell why.
Yeah, so the reason UPI is on my list is because it has been a payment interface that has really changed India over the past 3-4 years or so, especially during pandemic. I have seen India go from like a total cash oriented country to being like so cashless, right? Everything is digital transactions that we see everywhere, maybe 90-95% of the places, and that is amazing, right? That is truly amazing.
I agree. I think the main reason I put UPI on my list was also because of the people impact it has had, right?
Yeah.
Like I think there are only few techs in the whole world who can claim that they have touched almost the whole population of their country, right?
Mhm.
And with UPI, we are there, right? Even if
Yeah.
you go to a remote place, a village. I recently went to a village called Wagaman, and I could find UPI in small shops there, right?
Exactly.
That was unbelievable to me, right?
Yeah.
And I think that is we are obviously going to discuss the details of this,
Yeah.
but just by impact alone, I can rate UPI as one of the most revolutionary tech to
Yeah.
have been implemented in
Yeah.
India.
So before we dive into the tech, right, really wanted to talk about this one anecdote here where I actually realized like the day it hit me like, oh God, we are a country of like total digital transactions. Was India is like we go out for street food now and then, right? Like मेरे को शाम को चाहिए बताशे. So I had gone out for like a simple snack for pani puri. And I saw that one particular vendor, he didn't have a UPI scanner and a QR code.
I see.
Okay? And I saw people came, 10-15 people came, and then he's like telling rates, but people are like कि UPI लेते हो, and he said nahi. And I saw that whole bunch of people just walk away.
Oh wow, yeah.
Right?
So I mean,
he lost business because he was still operating on cash.
I think UPI has come to the point where if you're not in the ecosystem, it can actually hurt you at this point. So that's a great anecdote, and I think kudos to the government also to actually make it easy for people to onboard, because if you think of from a perspective of before UPI, the prime thing you require for UPI is a bank account, right? So I think there were schemes that actually went ahead and made people open bank accounts with zero balance accounts.
Yeah.
So all that is definitely in the background to actually bring UPI to this point where now it is a business. Like you need it for the business, otherwise you'll lose business.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing that I think was really done well here was that just the trust in online payments, right? Because growing up or even with experiences, I've seen that India has always been a little less trusting of credit card payments and just moving to digital transactions. So being able to establish that trust in people that you are, just okay scanning a QR code and putting money through it, I think that is just simply, that is like truly, truly revolutionary.
Yeah, and I actually believe there is more nuance to it here, and I love one decision that was taken here by the government. So India has, as you said, obviously been distrustful of financial techs that have existed outside India for a long while. One example of this is credit card, which is actually still the most widely used form of online payments outside India. And once you go outside, you realize, oh, it's so hard to just find a credit card that works in that country, right? But one thing I realize now that that the NPCI, the people who implemented UPI, did right was to realize what the Indian consumer trusts, and what they trust is their bank account. They don't trust any layer above their bank account, be it wallets, credit cards, forex cards, whatever it may be, right? So the fact that UPI works directly on your bank account, there is no delay in payment, it's instant, I think is a big reason why people trusted UPI but they do not trust and still do not trust other financial instruments that are kind of doing the same thing, right? Providing you an interface to interact with different banks.
I think that is a very good point. And just to like quantify the scale UPI operates today, I think the last I read was that they do like 1 billion transactions per month in a country that has such a huge population. To get them onboarded to a platform like that, kudos, man.
Yeah, and I think due credit has to be given to people innovating outside of just the UPI interface. There have been multiple companies, I think PhonePe is one, for example, who have been building on top of UPI to provide that unified experience, so that app doesn't matter, the issuer of your UPI ID does not matter. So and definitely the UI part, right? Once I still remember the first app that government released, and if you see Google Pay now, there's so much gamification there. There's so much
the scratch cards and whatnot. So
definitely this can't be credited to one entity. It's just this ecosystem of like good developers pushing their boundaries, and overall the ecosystem actually building well.
I agree with that. So do you want to talk about the tech side of UPI a bit? I mean, we are engineers.
I think at the base of it, the tech is not that complicated, right? So anyone can go up and read online. It's a central repository to maintain different banks. It's, in a very, for lack of a better term, it's a glorified interface. Right? It gives interface to the person being paid. It gives an interface to the person who is making the payment, and it gives an interface for all banks to communicate. What is commendable about it, I think, is the fact that they were able to do this.
Yeah.
Like, get all the banks onboarded, get all people onboarded, as we have spoken. But yeah, and the other part of me, other part of this is where I'm more impressed is, and where we actually do not have much visibility, and I want, the government to give more visibility, is how the architecture is scaling.
Yeah.
Because that's where the true beauty comes.
True beauty is, because like you said, right, it's in the crux of it, it's actually very simple tech. You send one request here, it forwards address resolution, take it from the remitter, put it to the beneficiary, but the beauty of it is actually the scale. The other thing that really intrigues me is also their failure responses, right? If the transaction fails. That part of it is also very intriguing to me, because all that has been implemented pretty seamlessly. But again, I could not find much visibility to that front. Do you have an idea about that?
I actually think error handling is where UPI can actually improve. Okay. Architecturally, they're sound.
Yeah.
I know they're coming from a financial standpoint. They cannot have a false positive at all.
Yeah.
This is about money. People take money seriously. One breach of trust can actually bring down the UPI success to a huge amount, right? But I feel like sometimes the errors I get, I think the banks are able to game the error message in a way that you blame your internet provider, but actually the bank server is down. So,
no, but I think in apps like Google Pay and stuff, you do get like, the servers bank was.
Yeah, that is true. And maybe I'm coming at it from a point when a year back, because definitely Google Pay, Phone Pay, all these people also see this and they're like to the bank, like, what do you think we're idiots here? Like, please send a proper error message, right? So it is definitely improving, but I think that is one place where I would like to see. So once you're hosting an interface, you always want to enforce more so that it's standardized. You should not leave error messages and stuff, to the bank to decide. You should give them an option. Hey, here are 5 error messages. Choose one and tell me, like, this is a problem. Don't just give me a random message and I'll propagate it to the client, for whatever it is needed.
Okay. Yeah, I think architecturally they are sound, but the error handling part still needs to be improved.
Yeah, and of course, I would love if they release. It's a government entity. They don't have anything to lose. I think they should definitely release more info about their architecture and how they're scaling.
Do a tell all about architecture. Show us a system design video.
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually very curious about scale. One thing is to handle the request, but another thing is to handle latency. Right. If you have worked on scale, you definitely have. But for viewers also, you know that latency ultimately determines the usability of your system. Exactly. And when it comes to scale, latency is very hard to manage, especially for fast moving transaction involving multiple entities, right? And we all know how bank servers work. So I will be very, very happy if they release more information there. People have obviously guesstimated it and reverse engineered it a lot, but that doesn't make it true. So they should definitely give a paper at least to give us more insight into it.
True, I agree. Okay. Okay, so now that we have covered the architectural aspects of it, the next thing I wanted to dive into was it's an interview question, where do you see this technology in 5 years from now or 10 years from now?
Yeah, I mean, UPI, I have strong feelings for that question. But I guess it comes from the engineer mindset that everything that is there needs to be improved. Okay. And for me, I feel like UPI is at a place where you have to be very careful in what direction it goes. If you over-engineer it, you might create a bar which makes harder for people to use it, right? I already feel gamification is reaching that point where sometimes there's just so many useless coupons I have in Google Pay. I mean, please Google Pay if you ever have listened.
Google Pay starting mein they used to give you money.
And
like the thing is, like, when you incentivize something, even if you get that for free ka 5 rupees ka coupon, you used to be like so happy.
Yeah, no, I agree on that, and they did that to get customers. But now I have like a bunch of useless coupons, and my OCD, I know the coupon is gonna be useless, but my OCD has to scratch it, right? So please stop with this useless coupons. Nobody wants them.
So one thing is obviously about the engineering thing, but then there's also the future scenarios that this technology can unblock, right? So one thing that I believe would be really interesting to see is, now that India is having talks with the world about selling UPI tech, would be this cross-border UPI transaction.
I agree. Yeah, that's a good point. I think expansion, not along the tech side, but along the implementation side of having it more seamless across the world will definitely be good. The question remains whether it is just beneficial for Indians traveling abroad, or is it going to be beneficial for people outside? But I guess ultimately they also are getting a better payment
Yeah,
solution.
I mean, travel becomes easier, right? Like you just said, ki if you have to travel to another country, you spend like some time figuring out ki which credit card is gonna give you the good interest thing and whatnot, right? If you have UPI, I'm pretty sure it's not gonna be I pay 50 rupees and they get like $1. There's obviously gonna be forex charge imposed on it because world needs to keep running, but it would definitely feel a bit more seamless. So I'm really interested in seeing that scenario pan out actually.
I agree, and I think on these lines, UPI recently did this wallet-based UPI payments for people visiting India. So if you visit India, actually, if you think about it this way, India has locked visitors out of their payment system because you come, you find UPI everywhere.
Yeah.
There is a possibility that the small vendors out here might refuse cash and refuse card.
Yeah.
They just want UPI. So a step in the right direction was to introduce wallet-based UPI payments. So you open a wallet and you recharge that wallet and then you can use UPI payments. Something similar can be implemented on international lines, I think once, but of course that will only happen if a country adopts UPI domestically in the first place.
Yeah.
But yeah, interesting areas. Let's see how it goes.
I think we're still like far from it, but we'll see how things pan out.
One thing though, alright, I think part of the success of UPI on this point was also that the decision they took to be mobile first and mobile only actually. I should not even say mobile first, mobile only. Right. I am sure that outside India there are competitors for such payments. Apple Pay, Google Pay, right? Yeah. They haven't caught up in India, but I think Apple Pay is a big competitor in US at least. So it will be interesting to see how UPI competes against those, because UPI in India had no competition.
True.
But once you have competition, the ecosystem that Apple brings, the ecosystem that Google brings, how does UPI counter that? Right?
Yeah, that's a pretty interesting thing, because at least to me, I always see like India as a slightly different market than the rest of the world. Because
I see it as a wildly different market.
I was trying to be politically correct, but thank you. So, yeah, because it is a different market, right? Because I've seen adoption for Google Pay, even Amazon Pay worldwide. But here you have UPI. Like, who will trust Amazon? Nobody trusts Amazon.
True. I mean, when you have a government-backed payment solution, why would you trust a private solution?
Private solution. I think that becomes the crux of it.
I think the reverse battle is going on in India then. All these people have to make them trust it. I think one thing I like about Google Pay though is, and in India Google Pay is branded in two places. One is the UPI part of it, but there's also the normal Google Pay of the wallet. That also now supports a UPI recharge that you can use to pay. So I think they are trying to merge into UPI, not fight against it. They're trying to set themselves up as a layer above UPI.
Yeah.
That's also an interesting thing they're doing. I don't know which path is correct, too early to call, but let's see where it goes.
Okay, I think we're good with UPI. So since I won the first one, you can go.
But you said your first one, you stole my first one. So shouldn't it be back to you now?
I'm gonna give you a chance to speak.
Fine, I'll go second. I won't be this mean. I think we're on a call, so we shouldn't be this mean. So, alright, I think the next one for me is gonna be a bit different. And I'll explain why I put it on the list also, because it's not an impact among the term of people it has hit. But it's the company Zoho. Have you heard of it?
Yeah.
Okay, so for people who haven't heard of it, Zoho has been around for almost 25 years now, I think, in India. They must be hitting 25 or just crossed 25, I'm not sure. I think 1997. But okay, I'm gonna come back to the point. Yeah, so Zoho has been making multiple SaaS products, primarily around the ITSM space and business productivity space. And if you haven't heard of them, you should definitely check out their tooling. They're one of the top competitors. I think in Africa right now, they're one of the most sought after business tooling solution, even beyond Google, right? First for their price, and second, I have personally worked on this tool. I used to work in Zoho, and I have seen the amount of innovation that that company is doing. I think it is unmatched in India right now. But I'm going to stop here. I will definitely have more reasons, but I want your opinion on whether you resonate with any of this.
No, I do like Zoho as a company. I also like them because there's this one fact about them that really makes them catch my eye, at least, that they never took any venture funding, if I'm not wrong.
Totally bootstrapped.
Yeah, they're totally bootstrapped. And to see such a company, thrive so much and compete worldwide from India, that really had my respect when I first read about them.
Yeah. That's true. No venture funding, of course. It's all bootstrapped, and I think that's part of the reason why they were able to innovate. So if you, I have worked at Zoho, and I'll tell you this: a lot of companies out there, they have a standard template. You know, start something, build something fast, choose a service, choose a infra provider, be it AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, Google Cloud, right? And pay them a lot of money, build an ecosystem there, and just try to scale up from there. Zoho has a different mentality. They like to own each and every tech. And when I first joined Zoho, it was my first job at there. I was blown away by the amount of R&D they had done on almost every field. They even run their own data center. They don't use a cloud network provider. They have their own framework running on top of it.
Oh wow.
Which is like a cloud network provider. I think they can actually think of open source, not open sourcing, like, you know, competing in the infra space. Maybe that's not in their path. But just to see that whole, once you do that innovation, right, as a company, now since you own every layer, you can do a lot of optimizations to save cost.
True.
Right? And that has also obviously created tons of job in Tamil Nadu. Like, you know, there are solar farms, there are data farms which are running there, which is creating jobs, which is obviously great. It is also bringing that tech to India, because a lot of startups in India, a lot of companies in India are not doing hardware that deeply compared to what is going outside. And I think hardware in general is something which is very hard, right, to do. That pun was not intended.
You meme template.
Okay, hard to do. Okay, so just because it has hard in the hardware, software is also hard.
Stop, you're ruining it further.
Okay, yeah. So I obviously feel like that kind of R&D more companies should be doing, you know, to bring more knowledge in their company and set that base so that you can do whatever you want. So the reason Zoho can pivot into so many things is because they have that base. They have it's very easy for them to spin up the
they have full autonomy of like the decisions,
spin up something new on the same stack, because they own every layer of it, right? It's not very hard to modify it.
So, and I also feel like one of those things that enable Zoho to do all those things is that they also have a very clear vision for their company, where they want to take the company. And the thing that astonishes me is that they own all the layers, all their services, no funding, and they have managed to remain profitable, actually very profitable over a very long period of time.
Yes. Yeah. And I think nobody can hate cash, right? Once it's in your pocket, it enables you to do so much if you're not in debt. So that definitely helps. And for the point where, you know, the vision of the company that they have, I feel like, so Zoho has pivoted a couple of times at least. Okay, I think their current journey that they started on was in 2008, where they pivoted to this SaaS provider of business solutions, and now their products have reaching maturity at the level of Google. If you haven't used Zoho Mail, I would actually suggest you to go and create a Zoho email and try to use Zoho Mail. You will find it so much better than Gmail. Okay, so that vision, I feel, is more attributed to the senior leadership and the CEO, right, Sridhar Vembu. I feel like he is very quick to identify trends in any field and take the company in a direction that is successful while maintaining R&D, which is very hard, right? So even though they have pivoted, those pivots have been easy because of their base, and the pivot was very early into the field. Like they knew that this pivot will pay dividends 10 years down the line, which it is paying now. So that is something very impressive to me.
And so this will be a slight tangent to the technical discussion, but again, the CEO of the company, right? And there's also, like we were saying, just the impact it creates. Like you said, Zoho has created a lot of jobs in Tamil Nadu. There's another initiative that I really like, that they really like to take students who are passionate.
Zoho University.
The students who are passionate about engineering but just don't have the means to pursue a degree. They teach them computers and then they hire them in the company, right? I think that is something also really great. You're not really creating impact just with your technology, but you're also creating impact outside of it. So that is
true. And Zoho University is one of the reasons this company made it. So there are few companies like this who have a strong base, but the added fact that they have Zoho University, where, you know, they can actually go ahead and they take students, they teach them, they pay them while they teach them, and then they hire them into products. I have seen it firsthand make an impact. I have seen the kind of students that have gotten opportunities. I feel India needs more of these things actually. And apart from that, another thing that I like is that India is currently has become this Okay, I'm gonna rephrase that. India is currently in this position where there's a huge migration to tier 1 cities.
True.
Okay, I think few cities in general, tier 1 and 1.5, so like Bangalore, Pune, Hyderabad, Chennai, Delhi, Mumbai, Kolkata, not that much.
Pune.
Pune I already
Oh,
said.
you
Yeah.
said.
Okay,
Sorry.
so these
Yeah.
cities are drowning. Okay, they're drowning in real estate costs. They're drowning in people. These cities are not like you can.
Bangalore is gonna be drowning in water in a few days. when
Yeah,
it rains.
that is the idea. But and it's raising the cost of everything, right? In the middle of all this, Zoho is actually trying to move to tier 2 and tier 3 places. You know, Zoho has an office in Tenkasi. Zoho has an office in almost, I think, all small cities of Tamil Nadu now, and they also have offices in small cities in North India now. So they are actually planning for this decongestion, you know, so that they can take the. So why do people migrate, right?
Yeah.
People migrate because there are no opportunities. So if
Opportunities.
those opportunities come there, then it will also bring the infrastructure as well as living conditions
Exactly.
there.
Yeah, it
right?
creates jobs. It creates the pressure for the government to create that infra
Exactly.
to support those jobs.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
So those things are actually that's a really good vision to have. I don't think any other company in India is even thinking on those lines today.
Yeah, I mean, at least not on the scale of Zoho. Or
Yeah.
if they are not yet there where Zoho is like having, it has been earning profit for a while. They have a lot of money to play around with to, you know, implement their vision. So if I don't think any company is doing it at a Zoho scale in the world right now to decongest major cities.
Yeah, that
Right.
is amazing.
Yeah.
Okay. Next. Okay, but before we move on, future of Zoho, because we have to tick the boxes.
I think I don't work there anymore.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I'm the right person to comment on this, and they have had a proven history. I think one thing I do want to see from Zoho though is I want them to be more vocal about their underlying stack in tech. You know, a lot of people don't even know the kind of great tech that is running Zoho services. It's just internal. I want them to be more vocal.
Yeah.
That's one thing I had. Like, why is it not known to the world that we have such great frameworks here, right? Tell them so that the world knows and world can learn from it, right? So I think there are a lot of things they can actually open source, right? There's such great technology running there. I still remember Mickey. It was a DB framework DB framework, multiple things it was doing.
Okay.
Right. That is something that can definitely be shown to the world to, you know, set apart the class of Zoho in R&D. And that will obviously help their sales also, because once the customer has the trust that this company has a deep R&D, you know, they'll definitely come with more money
Makes sense.
for you.
Yeah.
Cool. Now it's your turn. Your second pick.
Okay. So my second pick is not like a company or a tech as such, but it is more of this type of companies that we've seen spawning up, which are the aggregator apps, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Those
I'm
are-
an impacted person from aggregator apps, but go ahead.
Raise your hand if you've been personally spoiled by an aggregator.
Yeah, I'll raise 2 hands.
Yeah. So, just as that context, these are your food delivery apps: Swiggy, Zomato, groceries, Zepto, Blinkit, BB Daily,
Yeah.
services,
The list can go
Urban
on,
Club.
yeah.
The list can go on, right? But again, when I was a teenager, around 10-15 years back, if I had to order food online, I would ask my mother permission to use the internet, go find Domino's this number,
Yeah.
call that guy. I still don't know if the order would come. Now I'm like, hey, I'm a little stressed at work, I need ice cream, and I have it in 20 minutes, right? So that is how I quantify the impact of the aggregator apps. I don't even have to go to a salon. Again, the tech is not very revolutionary, but the impact, at least in tier 1 cities, is truly revolutionary.
Yeah. And again, this goes back to that point, right? Of a tech done once is not the end of that innovation. Like, there are so many aggregator apps. All of them are raising the bar of aggregation in the first place, right?
Yeah.
They come from different domains. For example, you have Zomato, which is a food delivery app. Then you have Urban Company or Urban Clap. I don't know what they're calling themselves now. I think it's Urban Company. Okay. But they are a services-based aggregator.
Yeah.
But both of them are innovating on their own and raising the bar for aggregation in general. And I personally feel, aggregation has changed India in general. I cannot think of one thing, any service that I cannot get an aggregator for. I recently found out that there's a company called DriveU who's giving drivers as an aggregator on an aggregator. Like, I can just book a driver, he'll drive me somewhere, I can go to a pub, have a beer, and then the driver will drive me back. I don't have to worry about, driving while I'm drunk. So
Yeah.
this an aggregator for everything.
Yeah, true. So that's the thing, right? But the one thing that really intrigues me about this space is that now that you have so many of them, that there's just so much competition to innovate, right? And every day you see something new come up. Like Zomato recently launched a feature called Zomato Legends or something, where there
I
are
think they
special.
stopped that feature. No.
Okay. Maybe I'm a little late, but I'm still gonna talk about it because it's cool. So yeah, there are specialties that I'm in Bangalore. I want something from Hyderabad, but I don't really want to go to Hyderabad. They fly the food to you. How cool is that?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's that cool. I just don't know. Like, do you think it will be fresh by the time it comes to you?
No, I've had friends try it and they were like, it does not feel that it was just taken off the pan, but obviously it does not feel stale either.
Okay.
So
I mean, I like it as a concept for
Yeah.
sure. Okay, but I feel like some of these aggregator apps, as you said, are doing too much.
too much to
Like,
stay
do
in
you
the
really
market.
need it? I think there was this case of Swiggy delivering in less than 10 minutes for anything.
Yeah.
That was another thing that they came up with, which I felt was like,
Too
do I
risky
really
to-
need this bar of soap
Yeah.
in 10 minutes or
Yeah.
this hand wash in like less than 10? Is it really going to make a difference to my life?
Yeah.
But I guess there are I'm assuming they must have data behind to back up these product manager decisions that are being made.
Yeah, I mean, I think the motivation for that is just competition, right? So if you have too many of the same thing, how do you get user A? Like, if I'm a person who orders groceries on Big Basket, but tomorrow you give me something like Swiggy Instamart, your whole thinking process needs to be like, we're both doing the same thing, but how do you make it more enticing for me to shift from app
what
A
is
to
the
app B?
unique factor, right? What makes you different from them?
What
And
makes it
I think at this point all aggregator apps are pushing for faster and faster
which I think
completion.
is very detrimental to the delivery partners they hire.
It definitely is. I think I can't comment on that without actually realizing how they're running the delivery partner
That is also
network,
true,
right?
yeah.
It might be optimized enough to do it. Maybe it is not, but it might be. I want to give them the benefit of the doubt here.
Yeah.
But I still feel like as a company, when you start, your unique selling point just becomes bettering the tech over and over in an iterative fashion and not innovating new tech. That's where you kind of are running into a rut which you'll hit a wall. So for example, now you have 10 minutes. You'll make it 9 minutes, you'll make it 8 minutes, but you cannot, like, it's not gonna be sustainable, right? The right thing you should be doing is focusing on R&D to solve a problem that has not been solved in aggregator market yet, right? Which can be basically, let's say, predicting the demand of something and preloading it in Instamart, right? So these are the kind of things maybe they can spend more time on instead of trying to identify unique selling points here.
That is true.
Yeah, but coming back to the original discussion, I do believe aggregators have revolutionized India though. Like, I feel like this industry is still pretty young, even though it is, I think, more than 10-15 years old now. I still feel it is young because we still see new ideas coming up. We're still not seeing that maturity come out of them. Maybe some apps are showing maturity. Zomato, for example, has become a pretty stable app. I think they have realized their ideal UI and where they go from there. But a lot of them are still experimenting a lot and still trying to see what is best for them and what model works for them.
Yeah, the other thing that has really intrigued me about them is the profitability aspect of it. That delivering something in that much optimal time, where you have so many middlemen. You have, like, if you're delivering food, you have your restaurant, you have your delivery partner, and then you have to keep your own service running. The one thing that really intrigues me is, like, how do you optimize all of that in a country like India and still stay profitable in the long run?
Yeah, I think profitability has been an issue for almost all of these companies, right?
Because I've seen, like, competitors come and go, right? I think when we talk about aggregators, do you remember Food Panda? I think that was
rings a bell.
Yeah, that was one of the first online food delivery services that came in. Uber tried to compete in India with Uber Eats, yeah. But all those have also died down. So obviously the startups that are still running do have something that do have an edge where they are still able to keep going.
Or more money.
or more money.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm really interested. Like, where does this aggregator app go? Because, to be honest, I cannot live without it anymore.
That's true. It has definitely made it. It's one of those things where now, if you the convenience of ordering anything from the house, be it groceries or food, is definitely something I think is not going anywhere now. There'll always
Yeah.
be someone in the space.
Hmm.
But where do you see it going in the next 5-6 years? Or where do you want to see it go in the next 5-6
I
years?
want to see somebody actually implement a marketing strategy where, instead of, like you said, right, innovate on the tech, how it is optimal for the company and profitable so that you can still keep it running and also keep your customers happy. I would really want some groundbreaking thinking there. And then the other thing that has been intriguing me is this technology called ONDC,
Okay.
right? I think Paytm tried to implement ONDC for food, and that just seemed a little more interesting than your regular food delivery apps, because you have, when you run a food delivery app, obviously you have to take a cut from the restaurant, right? But if with things like ONDC, if I am a restaurant, I would rather put it online myself rather than giving a cut to somebody else, right? And use my own network. So those kind of things are still open questions for me, but I think with ONDC coming in and how companies figure out to be profitable, I think it's gonna be an interesting 5-10 years of journey ahead.
For me personally, I don't know why the government is thinking that food delivery is their priority right now and they have to solve it by tech. There's so many things you can solve by tech. I think they just had something beautiful in UPI. They took it and they're like, what do we apply this to? And they're like, food deliveries, go. Okay, so it's like cryptocurrency all over again.
But ONDC is not just food delivery, right? It can be
It's for
implemented
everything,
for
yeah.
anything.
I mean, yeah.
They
So,
made it something generic.
I feel like ONDC is still yet to prove itself to me, and I say that because once it came out, there was this whole thing that Zomato and Swiggy are done.
Yeah.
All these aggregators are done.
It's
ONDC is gonna kill
it's
everything.
AI hoax all
Yeah.
over again.
But I saw it. I saw recent reports. I was speaking to employees that are working at some of these companies, and ONDC is not even like, for example, I'm not going to disclose a company, but I have a friend in a product-based company which is selling stuff on Instamart as well as ONDC.
I see.
Okay, and ONDC is less than 1% of their revenue right now, right? Or even traffic. So that was surprising to me. Like ONDC has not been able to make that dent, and I think part of it is also coming from that fact that when it comes to aggregation, people are have gotten so much used to this refined UI of all these aggregators who have been in for a while, and they don't want to leave that ecosystem anymore. But yeah, it's an interesting thing. I'm sure ONDC is not dead yet, but it is gonna be fun to see how it kind of evolves,
Exactly.
going forward in the next 6 years.
Yeah.
Personally, for me, I see this industry in the next 6 years. What I want to see is more consolidation. Okay, I want these companies to kind of figure out that what works best and slow down and implement it better.
Yeah.
Right now they're still young, they're still trying to innovate. There's a lot of pressure on them, I guess. Also, I think a step in the right direction here is the fact that Zomato is now public. They have much more obligation to the stock market now. So they might slow down, see if they can increase profitability, make it a much more stable company.
Yeah.
So and I also want them to build long-term relations. Right now, I think a lot of their customers are like, they will open Zomato, they'll open Swiggy, and they'll be like, which one is cheaper?
We are like that.
Yeah, everybody's like that
Yeah.
because they have forced us to be like this, right? So I want them to build more loyal customer base, work on bringing a loyal customer base, which so that if Zomato gives me long-term benefits, I will use Zomato. I will not even do that comparison.
Yeah.
So if they can build that, that will be great.
Yeah, and none of them seem to be really reliable to me, right? That's the thing. Like, I think the trust factor with the customer, that hey, I will not move from app A to app B if a new app comes in and gives me 10 coupons just because I trust your product, that has not been established so far.
Yeah, and that's what they haven't worked for it, and I would like to see them work on it in the next in the coming years at least. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I think aggregator apps was a good discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Next one. Do you wanna go?
I think I can go first since we went in the last, and this is my third and final one. So the last one, I think I wanna bring onto the table, and again, it's judging by the impact, I think it's gonna be Zerodha. Okay. So there's also something here. Zerodha and Zoho are definitely in the same kind of business model.
Yeah.
Zerodha's CEO has actually publicly said good words about Zoho's CEO also. So they come in the same tranche of startups, bootstrapped, never taking venture funding. But the reason I picked Zerodha though is not because of that. It's because of the revolution they actually brought to investing in India. So again, I want to talk more about it, but I'm gonna get your initial opinion on this pick.
Okay, so I do like Zerodha. Yeah,
Hmm.
I think that's a good pick. I also like Nikhil Kamat's podcast. So, yeah, so, yeah, I think Zerodha, like you said, right, it has really, like, the impact is again very quantifiable, that they really made stock trading for the average Indian very, very easy and very accessible. Before that, you had to go pay banks to
Yeah.
trade and
And-
whatnot, and now
yeah.
it's just at in your phone.
And those banks had they had no UX. Okay, they only had a UI.
Yeah.
Okay, there was no UX in
There
it.
was no UX.
They were exorbitant fees.
Hmm.
Okay, so there's something called as discount brokerage in the world of finance, which is basically buying stocks at a cheaper price because they are able to earn money through other ways. Okay, so discount brokerage was one of the first with Zerodha, and they did it so well that I feel like you can actually point to a period in the number of investments people were making before Zerodha and after Zerodha, and then also ended up bringing all these other players into the field. Now we have Grow, we have Angel One, I think, not Angel One, something like that. Okay, I don't remember their name, but a lot of discount brokerage in India now that have come across. Yeah.
Okay, I think that's true. The other thing I like about them is that they have a very tight engineering team. If you look up the jobs at Zerodha, you probably won't find any.
Yeah.
Because I think they have like somehow managed to retain all the engineers that they started with, and they maintain a very small developer team, which is actually a very positive sign that they care about their employees to retain them.
Yeah, I think part of it is also coming from this CTO. Okay, he rarely blogs, I think, but whatever he has blogged is pretty good actually. Okay, and if you the mentality that he runs the team with, he spoke about them in his blogs. That's one of the reasons why I picked this also as an engineering revolution. He really believes in running lean teams. Don't overpopulate the team. Give more and more to a person, and let them reach their limits and tell you when they need more help. And that's you're correct there. Zerodha is famous for their very, very low attrition rate.
Yeah.
And they do that by letting people. I think the whole Android app is owned by 1 or 2 people.
That's
right?
amazing,
And that's
right?
being used by millions of people overall, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know the exact number. I'm hoping it's 1 million. I think they should have 10 lakh users. If they don't, that's pretty sad. Okay. But yeah, so that kind of ownership is really good.
Yeah.
Does it slow you down on the number of features you can offer? Yes.
Hmm.
But over time, you will see an exponential rise, because since one person is managing, he will be able to kind of build that exponential speed and get you to a point where it is going to be good and it's going to be fast eventually. So yeah, I think their engineering team is a testament to how to run good, efficient teams.
And again, the thing about like owning an Android app between 2-3 people, right? I think as a passionate engineer also, it really intrigues you to do that kind of work. That you own something end to end and something that is so important to so many people.
Yeah.
Right? The one thing I wanted to ask you was, do you know if Zerodha is again self-bootstrapped or?
It is bootstrapped. They haven't taken venture funding.
It's amazing, man, how such companies are.
I mean, I always feel that if your problems is the correct one, you will end up being profitable before you need venture funding. So if you're profitable, you will get you have money, right? So venture funding you need primarily to grow fast in a competitive space, or if you don't have money, right? You need that money to go fast. But I think Zerodha from the start was always profitable, and I think it helps that if you are buying stocks, you can always take a cut of them.
Yeah.
So if you run your engineering team well, if you run your architecture well, it doesn't cost you a bomb. You can obviously get there pretty fast. And they did that, and they've been in great profit for a long time. And I think now they're following the same model of Zoho. Zoho never wanted to become public.
Yeah.
I don't know about them, but I have a feeling that they're on the same lines, where they're happy being private.
It would also be funny to see Zerodha trading on Zerodha.
Yeah, I mean that does happen in a lot of brokerage companies, but yeah.
And again with Zerodha also, I really like both the CEOs, their brothers, right? I also like their mentality of giving back to the country, like enabling more and more startups. They both invest in startups. Obviously, it's also for their personal gain. Why would you do that for free?
Yeah.
But it's also because you want to enable the ecosystem.
I think, right? And that ecosystem ultimately helps them also. So, but yeah, I agree. They are definitely more vocal one of the more vocal people about implementing the right things and taking India to the next level. So yeah, again, that's why all of these combines are reasons are why I have placed them on this list. And yeah, I'm intrigued where they'll go next now.
Yeah.
Alright, after that little bit of technical disruption due to a minor issue, let's pick it up where we left it. So I think I was going to ask you, what do you see is the future of Zerodha now?
So as we were discussing, right, I think with a stockbroker kind of application, there's only so much you can innovate with the number of features you have and the number of users you have, right? And now even apps like Grow have started surpassing them in the number of monthly users as well. So I'm really interested in like what's next for these guys.
Yeah, I mean, it's true that Grow has overtaken them, but I definitely believe that Grow has more first-time investors, but Zerodha is becoming home to, those long-term investors and people who are more serious about investing. And you're right, there's not much you can innovate as going forward in like stockbroking. You can enter new fields, you can enter treasury bonds, other type of investments, but that's just a new avenues exploring, right? I do feel that Zerodha needs to really up their game on the trust factor for serious investors. They really need to double down on the fact that serious investors are choosing them. I currently feel that they are not doing that, primarily because I'll give you an example from last year. So last year Zerodha had 2 major outages. Now, once you have an outage on a major platform, which is one of the most leading platforms, it is inevitably gonna cause a lot of grief and loss of money.
True.
Since it's stockbroking, right? So people have their positions and everything. I really felt that Zerodha was not fully candid with what had happened, and they were in the first one they didn't even acknowledge properly. Second one they acknowledged it later, but we didn't really get much depth into why it happened and what steps are they taking to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
So those things were definitely missing, and I feel I would really like Zerodha to go and show more responsibility there and talk to us more and own these issues, also reduce them.
Yeah. I mean, more than responsibility, I think the word we're looking for here is accountability, right?
Yes.
You have to be, you have to really own up to your mistakes and acknowledge that you're fixing them. Like, for example, I work in cloud. So whenever we cause an issue, people lose money. And then you have to do your whole process of 5 whys, why it happened, what are you doing to, fix it. I think those kind of things really go a long way to establish trust with the customer that, hey, yes, we messed up, but we're also taking the right steps to fix it. So I think that will be an interesting thing to see from Zerodha in future if they can.
And of course, we do want them to talk more about the tech and challenges they face. It's a unique field, and they definitely have an engineering team that is very efficient. So would like to know, how that tech is going and how that team development. Like, there are definitely lessons everybody can learn there.
Yeah, teach us your system design, Zerodha, please, if you're listening.
All right. So let's move on to the last one, which is your third pick. So why don't you go ahead and tell me what it is?
Yeah, so I had some options, and after thinking for a long period of time, I decided to go with Razorpay.
Oh, okay. That's a surprise.
Yeah, so Razorpay is a payment gateway, right? They are just a payment gateway. They offer credit card transactions online. They also have POS machines that they sell to other businesses, which can accept MasterCards and different kinds of just card payments, right? And the reason I chose them were because I think they were kind of like the first company to kind of ride this wave of startup culture in India. They really did something well. And then they're constantly innovating. Like with techs like UPI coming up, it's gonna be hard, right? How do you keep up with such tech? So I think they're doing really well in that space.
Okay, yeah, I mean, it is definitely a surprising pick. But one thing I'm sure that they definitely disrupted this payment gateway field. So I still remember back in at the start of this peak, for example, when Flipkart started, right, back in 2008, Flipkart struggled a lot with online payments in India. Even Amazon struggled a lot. I think they even had to go ahead and implement cash on delivery. And even with like financial adoption one side, just the tech to do financial transactions was not there, right? So every company had to own so much of the financial infrastructure to just take payments, which was pretty slowing down for startups who don't have that kind of money to invest. And I think Razorpay was one of the first companies that streamlined it, and now as a startup founder today, you don't even have to worry much about how you're going to take
Yeah.
online payments. You have such, not just Razorpay, a lot of other platforms also now, but definitely Razorpay was the pioneer there who started it and
Yeah.
then made this field into their own.
Yeah. The other thing I also find intriguing about them is that again, like we were a very cash-oriented society, right? And I think Razorpay was also one of those companies that could establish that trust in people that, hey, it's okay to pay via your debit or credit card at a store or online. So that was good.
I kind of disagree on that. Okay, maybe they had a role, maybe they don't, but I think whatever UPI did, as we discussed, that kind of shadows anything Razorpay did there.
Yeah.
But I still do agree that they do deserve a place in this list, primarily because of this the impact they have had on making it easy for other startups.
Yeah.
Right? They have made that they have made it so easy for other startups to onboard. So I agree on that point. So I'm still okay with them being here. Yeah. Another thing that I do like about Razorpay though, okay, and I think that's kind of an important thing that they've been doing UX, right, is whenever I'm shopping online, let's say I go to click checkout, if I see powered by Razorpay and I see their UI, there's a very minor relief in my in the back of my mind that, okay, this is going to be a seamless transaction, they sync my cards, the UI is familiar, and there are very, very few failure rates, right? It usually goes through pretty smoothly. So those things I think are a good indicator that the company is also doing UX correctly, and that too in payment gateway, which is such a dry field for UX, given how many entities need to coordinate.
True.
So definitely I think Razorpay is doing a good job there.
The other thing from my personal experience has also been this, right? That I made my first international trip recently, and I realized that when the country I was visiting, when I would open their local websites and I had to pay by credit card there, it just seemed so murky just to use that UI that all they took was your credit card number and the transaction was done. There was no two-factor, there was no redirecting to your credit card's website. It all seemed very unsafe to me, and I'm like, as soon as I made the payment, and I'm like, delete my information right now. So I think that kind of trust is revolutionary in a sense, and they're still innovating.
Yeah, and I think part of it was also that the government in India has introduced two-factor to regulate, like it's mandatory by RBI. And the fact that Razorpay is able to work with these regulations and actually innovate the UX and the experience enough to make it seem feasible. I think a good example of this is automatically detecting OTP for transactions and stuff like that, right? Little stuff like that, which kind of makes them very good to use. And definitely I would want to see them doing more of this as more payment methods evolve, right?
And there's also been, I've also been reading about like what are the innovations they've been doing recently, because obviously payment gateways are something that you also have other competitors now. PhonePe is doing POS machines, right? So I was looking at what kind of stuff they're innovating on. And two things caught my mind actually. One was that they partnered with NPCI for the auto debiting of like UPI transactions, I think mandates. They collaborated with the government on that, so that was pretty cool. And then the second thing I think they did was like initially on their POS machines, if you did a UPI transaction and it failed, it used to take them maybe like 5 to 6 business days to initiate refund of the transaction, but they brought down that number to 2 minutes.
That's nice. It's always good to see tech innovating like that.
So that really caught my attention, that they've been profitable, they did something, but they're okay, that they still want to stay relevant, they still want to innovate. So that's why I made it to my list.
It's always good to see a service which reaches down to their downstream or upstream service and then collaborates with them. Like UPI is a central repository, right? Razorpay reaching out to them, making a feature and then implementing it. That's definitely commendable. I think the world needs more collaborations of this kind where private and public equities can gel together and make better tech overall. But where do you see Razorpay in the future now, like now that you have mentioned it?
So I think with Razorpay there's a similar callback to Zerodha, that I want them to be more accountable and more vocal about their outages, their tech. I mean, they have pretty good documentation of like their high level architecture, right? But again, in payment gateways, you have these things about latency and failure. So I'm really intrigued about like how all of that comes together. So that is something again I would like to hear more about, and then just the whole evolution of how UPI evolves and how payment gateways will evolve with that. I'm very interested to see over the next 5 to 6 years. What about you?
Yeah, for me, I think with Razorpay, the prime thing I want them to do is talk about more about how they're doing things. And of course, that doesn't mean reveal proprietary information, but at least they're working under a lot of guardrails, right? Like this RBI, this government policies. It's finance. There's a lot of banks which have different policies, APIs. I'm pretty much sure they're facing some good challenges that they're innovating and solving. It will really benefit them and their image if they come out and talk about it. Blog more about what challenges they face. And also lobby to make some of these things easier. Indian finance system is a mess, right? It's overcomplicated in some places. There's definitely layers where you can bring tech and simplify it. This example of them collaborating with UPI is a good start. I would really want to see more stuff like that happening, so that like it encourages other private companies also to do the same.
Yeah, I think this has been a common theme across all our discussions, like in Indian companies, right? That we want them to be more vocal and accountable about the things that they do. Yeah. But I think Razorpay is again I think all the companies we talked about, we're like really interested to see what happens to them.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, and the fields too.
True. Yeah. But before we close out, any honorable mentions that didn't make the cut?
I mean, I arrived at my 3 pretty quickly, since I had thought about these kind of stuff before, so I already kept a running list. Don't really have an honorable mention, since I feel like I have named the best 3, and there are others, but I don't think it's worth mentioning. What about you?
You're a very decisive person, I see.
Yeah.
So for me, I think my first 2 I arrived at pretty quickly, but the last one I was juggling around with a few options. I think Postman was one I was looking at, but didn't make the cut. I see your face explains it. So, with Postman, I think they also started with something great, but then the company's direction does not seem to be what it is now.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I have shifted off Postman. Okay, even I did used to consider Postman one of the pioneers of startup and tech that has come out of India. But I have personally moved to Bruno, another Indian company who is doing good there, and that's primarily because I've really surprised by the decisions they have taken in the last 3 years, and primarily the reason they are not in the list and Zerodha is on the list, because that vision seems lost to me, and I'm not really sure where they're going right now.
I think that's why they didn't make the list, but the only reason they came close to making my list was their unique concept of having a chief happiness officer, which is a dog.
Yeah, that's a good tidbit about it.
So I really like that factor, that they want to keep their employees happy, and the best way to do that is obviously get a golden retriever in the office.
Yeah. That's true, and I mean, that's still an honorable mention. I think they can still turn things around, but now definitely with their decisions they have made more competition for themselves possible. So let's see where they go. Yeah.
Alright, that was a good conversation.
Yeah, I loved it. There's some good choices there, and good discussion all around.
Okay, so thank you so much for watching. If you made it so far, let us know in the comments if you agree with our choices or not done yet. If you agree with our choices, or do you see more techs coming out of India, we would love to hear all about it, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye bye.